Thank you, Tatiana, for coming on today. My name is Robert, owner of Synergy Home Care of Lakewood. We service Cerritos, La Palma, Cypress, Los Alamitos, Rossmore, Hawaiian Gardens, Long Beach. That's the zip code 90808, and here in Lakewood. Today we have Tatiana. We're going to speak on long-term care insurance. So, T, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Robert, for having me. And for everybody watching, my name is Tatiana, known to be in the mental behavioral health space. And however, most people don't know, I've also been licensed in finance for the past 3.5, going on 4 years with insurance protections, investments, wealth management. And so I got into long-term care while I still have my mental and behavioral healthcare business because I'm working on scaling and expanding to open my own residential care facilities funded by long-term care insurance.
Is that what inspires you to get into long-term care insurance?
We only get older and eventually the roles reverse with our family members. They take care of us as a child and then eventually we end up taking care of them. And I've had the privilege of experiencing that this past summer, actually, helping with family members that are 60, late 60s, early 70s, and retired. And what I've learned is that a lot of our family members, especially of that generation in our communities of color, are not prepared for retirement. Some more or less, if you've had maybe a long-term, full-time salary paid job, sometimes people have retirement savings or some type of 401k plans or whatever the case is. But a lot of people actually don't know a lot about things like life insurance, long-term care, disability, annuities, all these things that really help us to retire comfortably.
Right.
So yeah.
For those unfamiliar with long-term care insurance, what is it exactly? What is long-term care insurance? Who can apply? How does the benefit work? Is it a certain age you have to reach or for anybody?
Yes, long-term care is for everybody. There's a lot of miseducation, misconceptions around, I think, insurance in general. But long-term care being something really important, what we should first and foremost know about long-term care, it helps cover for care. When you get older, you have illnesses and you're no longer able to do some of those activities of daily living that are what we call the ADLs. You need at least two of those activities of daily living in order to be able to claim against long-term care insurance. So things like bathing, dressing, being able to be mobile, continence, things like that. Long-term care covers for your caregivers that help you and assist you with those things. Assisted living, residential care facilities, nursing homes.
Right. That's what I do. When I go into these family homes, most of my clients are private pay. Not many have long-term care insurance.
Mhm.
I appreciate that you educating and bringing awareness today. And going forward, hopefully families could say, you know what, this is what we need to adapt to. Investing in yourself when it comes to aging in place. You want to remain in your home. And sometimes it does get expensive. We are a premium service. I mean, it's not a cheap cost. So having
Mhm.
something to offset that cost and investing in early on, being exposed to it and educated on it, years down the road when you need it, it's going to take effect. Why is long-term care insurance something families should think about before a crisis hit the family?
Mhm. We should think of long-term care coverage as soon as possible because, well, the answer is simple. You don't want to wait until it's too late, or you don't want to wait until something actually happens because you're not going to be able to get coverage. So let's say that this person is already not capable of fulfilling, or the independence is not there for maybe 3 out of the 5 or 6 ADLs, right? That long-term care insurance is not going to cover you. However, there are some, guaranteed issued policies and other strategies and ways around still getting long-term care insurance, but you wanna get it between the ages of, for example, some really great age ranges to get long-term care insurance would be in your 20s and 60s to get long-term care insurance. And the reason why you want to get it during that age range is because it costs less. You have lots of coverage during that time. Obviously, you're younger, you're healthy, so that makes sense. But the longer you wait, the premiums are a lot higher. There's limited coverage. And although, as I mentioned, there are guaranteed issued policies, they won't do any health checks, for example, but it's going to be extremely expensive and you're not going to get a lot of coverage. So you should definitely long-term care insurance as soon as you can.
Right. What are some types of long-term coverage insurance people could get? And there are misconceptions of LTC that I hear about. Oh, I have to be old. I have to be in the dying age to receive care. Is that a true misconception out
Oh
there?
yeah.
Yeah, types of care that people can receive under long-term coverage insurance.
Mhm. So things like skilled nursing, home health aides, a lot of the things that you're already doing at Synergy, this is all covered through long-term care insurance, assisted living, residential care facilities, 24-hour medical and personal care, memory care units. Those are all covered under LTC.
What about
Adult day help,
dementia, bathing assistance, toileting assistance? So there's
respite,
rest.
that's another thing. Care coordinators, sometimes people need managers over their services and people that help them to plan. That's also covered under LTC. Again, really important information because most people we think anything insurance is a scam, fraud, taking advantage of us. But actually, this is how the wealthy and the affluent create generational wealth for their families. So, again, a lot of miseducation and misconception around insurance protections. I'm really here today to educate and bring awareness around why it's important to invest in yourself early on. So, speaking of misconceptions, people think, oh, I'll just wait till I'll get old and when it makes sense for me to get long-term care insurance, or I'll just have Medicare, or my family will take care of me. But that's not always the case. We can't tell what's going to happen in the future and if our families will be able to take care of us. There also has to be some type of financial plan behind that. Obviously, it's going to take more finances and time and effort. Medicare doesn't cover long-term care insurance. Medi-Cal will, but again, a lot of confusion there. Medicare does not cover long-term care. And so another thing that I have to put out there also is that the quality of life obviously is much better when you invest in long-term care insurance because you'll have a choice as to who and where you're getting services from versus waiting on things like Medi-Cal and Medicare, where really this is governmentally funded programs and assistance, also known as welfare. When you have long-term care insurance, you have a lot of funding to be able to afford something that you deserve, especially when you retire.
Sure. I'm a planner and I like to be budget friendly. Like I believe 95 or maybe 99% of the population we live in the United States, right? So
Mhm.
planning purposes and costs, what are the main components of long-term care insurance? Can you briefly explain if there's different coverages when you use long-term coverage? Is there a main source people will fall under?
Long-term care helps cover care for ADLs. The cost depends on age, health and medical history, gender, marital status. Do you have a partner or not? It also depends on the companies that you choose, more or less, just depending on who it is, where they come from. Sometimes policies cost less because they're trying to attract other clients to their agencies. Or, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes there are companies a little bit more on the prestigious side, a little more confident in the services or coverage that they provide. So the cost may be a little higher. So I would highly suggest you do a lot of research and get with a financial advisor like myself to really shop and figure out what are your choices out there and the best policy for you.
For sure. So, but see, we had you today. So for my client, am I, what we going to do and what I'm going to do for them? What are some factors to determine how much this was going to cost us? This is going to cost me, my family.
Mhm.
Give us a ballpark range of how
Sure.
much long-term coverage would cost. And is there any hybrid plans that could be combined with the insurance?
Sure. So a young, healthy person, let's use myself as an example. I've been able to draft policies where I'm only paying $162. The coverage that I was able to put together under that policy covered over $270,000 in annual long-term care. So that's a small cost for somebody in their mid-30s, right?
For sure.
Young, healthy. The cost will become a lot higher if you wait longer. And again, we just get older. We find out that we have all types of allergies, illnesses, and things that we never had before. That's just a part of life. But it gets more expensive as you get older. So some of the, for example, like guaranteed issued policies are going to be much more expensive. Somewhere like an annual premium for that looks like if mine is only about 1,000 to $1,200 a year, somebody with a guaranteed issue policy would be a lot higher.
Mhm.
Um, they may be paying something between five, maybe even $1,000 a month for very little coverage. There are ways around this. You can still get long-term care insurance if that's something that you really need, especially if you're coming out of pocket and using retirement savings to afford caregivers.
You want to protect that retirement savings, right? That nest egg, you work 30, 20, 40, 50 years.
Mhm.
So having this amenity of long-term care coverage, it basically protects your assets. It can protect
Mhm.
your retirement wealth. We are living longer, like you said earlier, into our 90s, and some are really blessed to see 100, the century mark. But going forward, what's the barrier and the misunderstandings? It is a scary conversation to have, right? It's just like burial insurance. It's going to happen one day to us all. But what are the most common objections you hear about long-term care insurance?
Mhm. Most people rely on families to take care of them. I'll wait till I get older. I'm gonna have Medicare anyways, or they'll think long-term care doesn't cover much. It actually covers a ton more. For example, if you're just coming out of your retirement savings to afford your caregivers, not only are you coming out of pocket and have limited coverage, but if you invest in long-term care insurance early on, you would have been paying a very small fee, like myself, for example, $162. That's an annual premium. So I'm only paying like 10, $15 a month for long-term care insurance, but my coverage is over 270,000 or so. So I would love the same thing for everyone else. I think it's really just a matter of educating and bringing awareness on insurance now because there are lots of objections, lots of myths around long-term care.
Well, here's a big one that I believe most people feel they may be in this arena.
Mhm.
Pre-existing conditions.
Mhm.
Can we still get coverage? For example, if Jane Doe has diabetes, high blood pressure, had surgery 10 years ago, can they still get LTC?
There are guaranteed issue policies, more expensive with limited coverage, and some won't check medical records. You can still get coverage, even with pre-existing health conditions. Obviously, it would just cost a lot more. However, what I would say is that if it's not on medical records and it can't be verified, you can still apply for long-term care insurance. Other ways around still getting long-term care insurance is if you seek short-term long-term care, which would cover up to a year, for example, or group long-term care insurance because someone had employed you and that was a part of your benefits package. So there's still lots of ways around it. Again, lots of misconceptions. Oh, I'm not going to get it anyway because it's not like, I'm independent in these ADLs, so why would they approve me? But there's still lots of ways to access long-term care insurance.
Thank you. Now, going back, I'm the money man. I want to save my money, protect my assets. Speaking for my clients and potential clients, or just people in general that have a curiosity out there. It's just like whole life insurance, VULs, annuities, Roth account. If you never use long-term care insurance, you paid into it for several years.
Mhm.
What happens? Is the money just gone? Is it invested? If I invest today with you and say, hey, T, I would like to invest in LTC because I don't know what's going to happen to me in 20, 30 years from now. But say,
Hmm.
truly blessed, never have any health issues.
Hmm.
I'm really a horse. I'm a warrior. What happens to that money I invested in?
So, looking out for all my clients' best interests, I would never just say or recommend that you should just get long term care insurance because we look at the bigger picture. And if you never use it ever in your life, it is wasting money. However, if you get something hybrid, like you have a life insurance policy that has long term care, essentially you're not wasting your money because in those whole life and IULs, people, again, most people don't know about this, but you can actually use or accelerate your death benefit to afford things that LTC would cover. So you're not wasting your money with whole and IUL life insurance policies. You're investing into a policy that has compound interest. You're also making money as you continue to pay your premium.
You got it. So
Mhm,
we connect this into home care because I'm in that home care space, non-medical. I
mhm.
want to age in place in their private residence. How does long-term care insurance, you spoke on it briefly with the ADLs. My understanding is if I go into a client home and they have long-term care insurance, I would say you can tap into that budget instead of paying privately. Let's utilize the long-term care insurance and that would pay for their services. So is it just the ADLs when you tie it into the home care non-medical space?
ADLs. That's pretty much what it's for, but it covers care coordinators, home health aides, caregivers, respite, skilled nursing, assisted living, residential care facilities. There are things you're already doing at Synergy that long-term care funds absolutely. For any clients you have currently, I highly suggest looking into long-term care
Okay.
to help fund their services.
Right. And how should families look for when they choosing a LTC plan or a home care provider? They can look no further. They can look at Synergy Home Care of Lakewood. When
Mhm.
it comes to choosing the right coverage, is there a right plan, different plans for LTC?
There are definitely different plans. There's traditional long-term care, there's hybrid, there's short-term, and then there's group long-term care. But how a family should shop for long-term care insurance, ask what vendors they have under that specific policy because not every home health care agency is funded by that insurance. So, for example, if it were Synergy, Synergy would have to be verified as a legit business to have your licenses, right? And you are now vendored and contracted under that long term care insurance, which labels you as a provider to a client that they're providing the funding for to afford Synergy's services. So you want to make sure of those things as far as shopping for long-term care insurance. It wouldn't be nice if you got the insurance but didn't research prior and can't get reimbursement for Synergy services. Be prepared. That's all I'm saying.
Right. And guiding these people is key takeaways as we come to a closure.
Mhm.
What's your process when helping a client choose a plan? What should that client prepare?
When I meet a client interested in long-term care insurance, for example, my process is that I have to first take an initial meeting, understand their needs and where they're coming from. And then we do a financial needs analysis where they tell me about their income, their history, what their goals are, what their plans are, what types of care and support services it is that they're looking for. After that, we create a comprehensive financial plan, which then at the end suggests all types of products, protections, and things to be able to afford things like long term care insurance. Or if this is about life insurance, disability, annuities, we would be talking about that as well. But this is really more so for that client to be able to have a plan for them to retire comfortably and have the services they need for care.
What tips do you have for adult children? Calling my office for their parents. Say aging parents. Say that, hey, my mom have XYZ going on, or my dad. What are those tips to have with the conversation for those people?
I highly suggest if you don't already have a licensed financial advisor, get one as soon as possible. And really, that's because you want to plan ahead, not only for your parents, but for your family going forward. You not only want to protect your moms and dads as they get older, but also plan for your family as you all get older. A licensed financial advisor, some of the things that we cover are those insurance protections. Also, if you want to talk more about the investment side or wealth management, estate planning, those are all things that we cover as well.
How can I get a quote from you, Tatiana?
Mhm.
If you're not working with anybody, but you need a quote or more information, how can I reach you, Tatiana?
And actually, even if you are, I'd love to still take the meeting to see how I can kind of enhance whatever plans you have. Not everybody offers the same things. And I'm on some big platforms. I know a lot about the affluent side or that demographic and more comfortable guaranteed issue policies for our more kind of like families that need something that's more affordable or they don't have a lot of education on insurance. Please reach out to me at drtatiana.co@gmail.com. So that's Tatiana, Tatiana.co@gmail.com. Or you can call or text me on my work line. That's 818-850-0390. I would also suggest going onto my link tree where you can find all of the services that I provide.
We'll provide that at the end of the show too.
Mhm.
But before I let you go, one last question.
Mhm.
What's the biggest myth surrounding LTC?
Honestly, it's what we've been talking about this entire time. There's a huge misconception, miseducation, lack of awareness around insurance in general, not just long-term care. I hope people get the right education and awareness around long-term care insurance, every insurance, really. I hope to connect with you all that found some value in this interview. Thank you so much, Robert, for having me.
Dr. Tiana, appreciate you coming on today, exposing the truths and the myths surrounding LTC. For those looking for more coverage or to get into the long-term game, contact Dr. Tiana or us. Our phone number is 562-213-9137. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.